Break Fix Podcast is all about capturing the living history of people from all over the autosphere, from wrench turners and racers to artists, authors, designers, and everything in between. Our goal is to inspire a new generation of petrol heads that wonder, how did they get that job or become that person? The road to success is paved by all of us because everyone has a story.
Tonight, we're diving headfirst into the kind of storytelling that smells like gasoline, questionable life choices, and a touch of our favorite Florida man headlines, but all in the best way possible. Author Jesse Fresco has carved out a lane all his own with his book Drive Like Hell, an autumn frost story, a novella that's chaotic, clever, and unhinged in all the right ways. And that's just the beginning. Because Drive Like Hell isn't a one-off, it's an opening salvo in a whole series of autumn frost adventures, each one expanding this fever dream universe where danger, humor, and sheer audacity all share the same bar tab. Jesse writes with that rare mix of pulp energy and sharp world building, the kind that makes these stories feel like a doorway into something much bigger. And speaking of bigger, this wild ride is also a runway for his next major project, Skyhawk. And if that name rings a bell, it should. Jesse's tipping his hat to the NES classic Captain Skyhawk, channeling that retro, high-flying, save-the-world spirit into a brand new book series that promises to be just as bold and just as unapologetic fun as everything he's written so far. So whether you came for the Florida Man-style chaos, the pulp adrenaline, or the nostalgia-charged flight path into Skyhawk, Jesse Fresco is about to take us on a ride that refuses to slow down. So with that, Jesse, welcome to Break Fix.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Keep going. Keep more compliments. Keep going.
Well, like all good break fix stories, everyone has a superhero origin story, and I found your bio to be really interesting. It says you began writing as an escape from your day job as a stagehand.
Yep.
And your work is heavily inspired by 16 years in the film industry and your various life experiences. And I noted in the authors you're inspired by, one of my personal favorites, Garth Ennis, is on that list.
That's right.
Talk to us a little bit about becoming an author.
Got into the film business back in 2008, right as I got out of college. 1 month later, I was in the business as a grip and an electrician for films and TV. And of course, about 3 months after I got in the business, the 2008 financial collapse happened. And I swear to God, I was making a delivery to a place in DC for a commercial. I'm in a Sprinter van, so I'm at the loading dock, and no one's coming out to receive the gear. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm listening to NPR, because I'd listen to NPR in the truck. And I'm like, man, no one's coming out. And I would call the contact number, no one would answer. I'm listening to the radio, and it says on the radio, Goldman Sachs being investigated for fraud. The commercial was at Goldman Sachs in Washington, D.C. that day. So finally, a guy comes out to the loading dock and says, yeah, the job's canceled. I just looked at him dead in his face, and I said, does this have anything to do with the fact you guys just been accused of fraud? He stared at me for about 5 seconds, turned around, and walked away. I'm pretty sure he lost his job that day. So for about a year at that point, I was working a kind of dead-end job as a grip and an electrician at a grip house in Washington, D.C., originally called Washington Source, now called Red Star. They've since moved out of that location. But yeah, it took a little while, but eventually I did. The economy did recover. I got to work on various films and TV shows, Captain America 2, Veep, season 1 through 4, a little bit on House of Cards, Philomena. I did a bunch of movies, TV shows, and I kind of realized at a certain point, I don't really enjoy this. I don't like it, even though I loved movies and I love TV shows, but I realized I don't enjoy waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be on set for about 14 hours a day, because it's a soul-killing job. If you have hobbies, you're not going to enjoy them. If you have a spouse or a partner, probably not going to see them. If you have kids, you're probably not going to see them. Don't have pets. So it just got to the point where I was like, why am I doing this? And then eventually I since turned in my union card in 2023. In September 2023, I did finally turn in my card for IATSE 487. And in 2016, I jumped into stagehand stuff where I was just working in like concerts and corporate events, which while it doesn't pay as much and it's non-union, it's more my speed. I can set my own schedule. I don't always have to get up at 4 a.m. I can work a normal job. If I had continued to try to stay in the film business, I would never have written anything.
So they say, write what you know. And coming from the DMV, the Autumn Frost series is based on a resident of the DMV. And so I wondered as I was reading it, In your sort of sordid past and all the jobs you've had, were you ever as you say in the book, a to and from driver? Did you drive for
No,
Uber or Lyft? Okay.
no,
So
no. I've never driven Lyft or anything like that. I questioned doing it at one point back when COVID was happening because I was like, I kind of need some work. But eventually I got the unemployment for that. And I was like, okay, I can relax for a bit. One of the things that people always say is, well, I don't know how to write. Well, here's how you become a writer. You just start. Just start. Pick a thing you want to talk about and just start writing. I did the kind of lead child thing. The writer of the Jack Reacher books, when he lost his job and he was out of work, he said, well, I've read a bunch of books. I could probably write one. How hard could it be? You don't realize how hard it is until you actually start doing it. So, but it is tough. I would kind of off and on start working on various things. I'd started off various projects, all the way like the Skyhawk novel. That started as another project back when I was in film school in 2006, 7, something like that, called Seven Starfighters. That was the seven moniker attached to a sci-fi storyline. And I kind of abandoned it because I just wasn't good enough as a writer at that time. Also, I then realized there's another story that is that. It's called Battle Beyond the Stars. It's a Roger Corman film. So I was like, okay, I'm going to chuck that out the window. Don't need to do that. So I kind of put it on ice. And I would come back to Skyhawk every now and again. It just kept changing over and over again. There's like 3 or 4 aborted attempts. I probably still have those on a flash drive somewhere. And I'm sure if I looked at them now, I'd go, ooh, that's not good.
so let's talk about the inspiration for Autumn Frost then. Are they based on true stories? Were these things you were reading
No,
in the news? Where'd you get the idea for this?
because Skyhawk was so political and it's a very politically oriented story, I said, you know what? I need something that's just like some pulpy fun, just so people just jump in, read it, and jump out. Like you said, you read Drive Like Hell very quickly on a plane. That's what I wanted. Something that you can just jump in, read it in one sitting, and you're done. It edges into politics, but it doesn't get super political. And one thing I was kind of interested in at the time was the fentanyl crisis that's going on right now. Right around the time I was working on Drive Like Hell, the Trump administration declared fentanyl to be a weapon of mass destruction. First, I was like, that's kind of dumb. That doesn't make any sense. And a friend of mine, Patricia, who is a magistrate down in Petersburg, Virginia, she said, yeah, that's true. It is a weapon of mass destruction. It is an incredibly addictive drug. Drug dealers will cut it into other things like cocaine or crack so it becomes more addictive. It can destroy an entire community. It's a highly, highly addictive substance. And so I thought, well, what if somebody ends up with 2 pounds of this in the trunk of their car? It'd be really, really shocking. I've always had this thought in my mind, like if I was like steal like diamonds or gold or something like that, I'd be like, people think, oh, I'm rich now. My first thought would be, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? I can't change this anywhere. What am I supposed to do with it? So if I ended up with 2 pounds of fentanyl, you might think, oh, I could sell this somewhere and make a ton of money. I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'd just be like, give it to somebody? I don't know. So the Autumn Frost series, the character herself is actually based on a cosplayer I really like named Autumn Ivy.
Okay, because I had
Yeah.
this mental image of Dr. Beverly Crusher, played by Gates McFadden from Star Trek. Just the way you explained her physique and the way she spoke, and I was just like, I had this mental image. But I also noticed there was a theme. Redheads play a big role in your books because there's a main character in Skyhawk that's a redhead. There's a couple ancillary characters that are redheads, and then Autumn Frost is a redhead. And I'm like, okay, he's got something going on there.
I like redheads. Like, but the character is based on a cosplayer I like named Autumn Ivy. And at one point, I was going to have her do the audiobook for Skyhawk and Drive Like Hell, but just schedules just don't match up. She's very, very busy. But the character is physically based on her. She's big and she's buff. She's got muscles everywhere. She has red hair, but a very, very sweet, cute face. And I was like, oh, that's just Autumn. That's it. I just wanted a character that doesn't have a ton of baggage. She doesn't have like a twisted, sordid past. She wasn't assaulted as a child. Like, no, she's just a good person. Because Skyhawk is filled with a lot of morally ambiguous characters. I said, you know what? Can I just have just a good person? The sequel to Drive Like Hell that I'm working on right now, Black and Blue, which is based in Baltimore, the person she's protecting says, why did you save me? And she said, it was the right thing to do. Don't need a reason.
I like the fact that Drive Like Hell is a quick read. It's a novella format, which you don't see much anymore. That was really popular, let's say in the 1970s. These little novella series, like little murder mysteries.
Yeah, quick and cheap.
Yeah, and you're bringing that back, and I thought that was really cool. In order to do that, you have to make it punchy and high octane and very quickly paced. It's not a short story. It's not an essay. It's not a book. It's somewhere in between. How did you find yourself writing something like that really hasn't been done in quite a long time?
I just kind of found ways to keep the pace up. For example, the Baskins character, the sociopathic hit woman, that was invented because I realized about chapter 5, I was like, oh God, I'm going to wrap this up in about 5 pages. I need some other kind of threat. Because originally they were just going to just drop the fentanyl off and drive away. And I was like, well, this book's going to be like 30 pages. I need more. And so introducing that character, it just felt like it was appropriate to bring in some other threat. Because these follow the standard bell curve structure of plot, whereas Skyhawk there's not really a plot structure to it. It's kind of slice of life. These follow the standard rising action, hit the climax, descending action, denouement. Very kind of standard structure, because it's just, you need something to just jump in, follow on a very easy path, and then get out. And so the characters in many ways are not necessarily underdeveloped, but they're kind of straightforward. Like, there's not a lot of depth to them. You know, like the Cassie character, not super in depth, but there's a little bit, because it's meant to be a very quick, compressed time frame. It only takes place over the course of like 12 hours. It's just one bad night on New Year's Eve. And Black and Blue is an even tighter time frame. It takes place over the course of like 5 hours. It's really, really quick.
You mentioned Baskin, and again, mental images, right? So obviously you had Autumn Ivy in your mind for our main character, Autumn Frost, but Baskin reminded me of Mr. Kaplan from Blacklist, which was Raymond Reddington's right-hand sociopath. But I packaged it in this sort of, what if Lucy Liu was Mr. Kaplan? Like, that's the mental image I came up with. Am I off base here?
I've never seen Blacklist, so I couldn't really relate to that. I can't remember what the hell was the inspiration for Baskin. It was I'm trying to remember. Oh, there's a moment in Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie where Brad Pitt is at a card game and somebody walks in and says, it's like something like, "Are you here for a job?" And Brad Pitt goes, "You are the job." And then just bam, 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 just shoots everybody in the room. I was like, okay, that's just Baskin's character. Just does her job, keeps to herself, not really associative with people. Because I was looking into what mental impairments could be useful as a hitman. I mean, you could also go back to Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. Clearly a sociopath, has no regard for anybody but himself. He gets away with it at the end, which is the way the criminal justice system works these days. Bad guys tend to get away with stuff. So.
Let's talk about Autumn's adventures a little bit more. And obviously you're expanding her universe, with Black and Blue and whatever else you have on the drawing board. It feels like her adventures could go in 100 different directions, right? Because they're sort of absurd. And we tongue-in-cheek the idea of the Florida Man story, but you hear some of these Florida Man story headlines and you're just like, truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. But where do you plan on taking her character? How far can you really go? And how do you balance the absurd with the grounded?
In terms of plots, I just kind of come up with what would be interesting to me at the time. What are legitimate threats that we're dealing with currently in America? I mean, Black and Blue, the main threat is ICE agents. There was that whistleblower came out and said that ICE agents are being trained to disobey the Constitution and violate human rights. I was like, oh, okay, then they're bad guys. Not one of them stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. So I said to myself, okay, what if I made them the villains? I don't have to explain anything. Everyone sees it now, and no matter where you land on the political spectrum, if you see people being dragged out of their homes, this is inherently wrong. And so Black and Blue is about Autumn protecting a 15-year-old kid who's on the run from ICE, and it's a case of mistaken identity. They got the wrong person. The wrong person was listed on their pull sheet. They're like, well, we got to bring this person in. It's like, no, that's the wrong name. But they're already committed, so they say, well, the hell with it. Let's just get him anyways. And then the third one that's going to be probably coming out around September, called Funland Fury. Autumn is going to be on vacation with her girlfriend, Becky, in Rehoboth Beach, and they're at a nightclub one night, and there's a shooting. Very much similar to the Pulse nightclub shooting that happened down in Florida. And it turns out there is a neo-Nazi initiation ritual happening. Got to kill somebody. And so Autumn, instead of being sort of on the run like she is in the first 2 books, she is out for revenge.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. One of her friends gets killed at the nightclub, and so she's taking a more proactive approach in the 3rd book.
All right. Well, this being we're going to put air quotes, car show, cars play a central role in Autumn's world as a to and from driver, and they're practical characters in the story. I mean, you talk a lot about her Honda, right? And
yeah, the Honda Accord.
I have so many questions. I could put so many threads, and I'm like,
why a Honda Accord? Because it's plain Jane normal.
It is, but then I kept thinking, well, is it the 4-cylinder? Is it the 6? Well, she doesn't drive a stick. I figured that out.
She knows how to drive a stick. She knows how to drive a stick, which she does get one in Black and Blue, and there's a bit where somebody meets up with her and she has to drive his car because he's been shot in the shoulder, so he can't drive, and it's a Subaru. And she says, a Subaru? Really? Yeah, but the Subaru is a manual, it's a stick shift, and it's got a supercharger in it. So it's like, oh, this is gonna be great for a chase sequence. Great, we're gonna totally overpower these guys.
So it's fun things like that where you say, well, the Subaru's got a supercharger in it because it's like, okay, so that's some Fast and the Furious mods because they came with turbos from the factory.
Mhm.
So I found little things like that as a car nerd. They just kind of stuck out at me. Like the scene at the mall where she's trying to evade the guy in the old Land Rover, which if you've ever driven a Land Rover of that era, they're not that fast. So that made me laugh for one. But then she's
Yeah.
like up on two wheels and I'm like, oh, wow, this is getting interesting. I would have assumed Honda Accord, icy night, that would have understeered and maybe she would have rubbed the Jersey wall going down the ramp or something. I was like, okay, well, he put it up on two wheels. I'll take it. I'll take it. You know, you take the absurd with the realistic.
Yeah.
Like the tire change scene. I don't want to give any spoilers out, but I'm so glad it didn't escalate because I was like, spare tire. This is going to get really good really quick because it's not going to hold up to her previous driving, you know, stuff like that. So I was thankful for those little tidbits, those little extras. And then again, as a car nerd, things stuck out to me and I'm like, well.
Weird thing, I'm not a super car nerd. I do like vehicles. I appreciate them. I currently drive a Hyundai Tucson, not a great car because my previous car was a Buick LeSabre, and I love that thing because hey, it was a very efficient car, great gas mileage, smooth ride, and then I hit a deer. so my mother was looking to get rid of her car, so I inherited the Tucson, and she got something else for herself. I got this one for free.
So in Drive Like Hell, is that deer hitting scene, is that part of your actual experience?
Yeah. It was there because I needed to get rid of one of these trucks that's chasing her. And I was like, well, I did hit a deer last time, so I want to do that. It wasn't as bad as that. It was just, I kind of just bumped it and it fell forward and then it got up and ran off. But it was enough damage that it was so out of date that they said, yeah, insurance isn't going to cover it. It's basically just totaled. It would drive fine. It's just, I can't drive something that's damaged like that on the road.
I found the car chase scenes, which there are a lot of in Drive Like Hell, to be entertaining, especially because growing up in that area as well, I knew the roads you were talking about. I was like, I know exactly where they're going. I'm like, I can visualize that intersection in my head right now. I don't know if I would have survived it the same way she did, you know, in some of those cases.
She's bad luck in life, but she's good luck in driving.
Yeah, that's what everybody keeps saying in the book. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I expect to see that obviously in Black and Blue and in the following ones as well. So that being said, do you feel like you're going to grow that because it is the central point? She's driving and she's out there. What do the future car chase scenes look like? Can you give us some idea of like, do you get a little bit more into the driving part of it?
Well, definitely in Black and Blue. I mean, first chapter, it starts off, it's like right on the road. Kid jumps in the back seat, he's being chased by ICE agents. They speed off. They're in Canton in Baltimore. She makes a drop off up there. And after her lunch break, kid jumps in, they speed off and they try hiding out in a factory that's been closed down. And agents surround the building and they realize there's only one way out. That loading ramp for where they bring tractor trailers in. So it's like she's going to pull a Fast and Furious and leap out of it. Unlike the Fast and Furious movies where cars are impervious, the moment she lands, like, okay, wheels shaking, there's a vibration in the pedals, what's going on? Like just a tiny drop of like 3 feet, immediately something goes wrong.
So do you see a future for Autumn where, again, based in the area that we live in and the resources we have available to us, where maybe she becomes one of the defensive drivers for like Department of State? I don't know if you're aware, but that training actually happens at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, West Virginia. That's where they train all the Department of State people. So like, do you see a future for her where she goes into law enforcement or something like that? Or is that too far in the future for her?
That's probably too far in the future. I did have an idea where a politician jumps in the back of her car, like there's some kind of an assassination attempt, and the agents like shove the politician in the back seat and just say, just get out of here. We'll tell you where to meet up. Like, I'm just not sure how to get to that one.
You reference in the book about she lost her welding job and she, you know, she got the to and from gig and now her life is driving. And to me, I was like, wow, that'd be a really cool progression if like in a TV show where suddenly she went from pulling herself by her bootstraps, losing the job that she had for such a long time and now becomes like this superstar part of the Department of State. Like I could see that'd be a cool way to sunset that adventure in some ways where she became a super heroine in a way.
That could happen. The issue, though, is that if you look at the current Department of State, they have basically said LGBT characters or people like that not welcome here. So we're going backwards in that direction. At one point, I was going to say she's a straight up lesbian, and I think that she's just pan, open to everything. but she does have a girlfriend. That's not really going to fly with the current political administration because this is set in Trump's America.
Got it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I could probably get to maybe her being sort of a bodyguard. I'd had one idea about her being a bouncer at one point at a club, maybe doing something like that, because in Black and Blue, due to the events of Drive Like Hell, she has a little arsenal in her car now. She has all non-lethal weapons. She has a taser, an extendable baton, mace, and there was something else I had in there as well. Anyways, but she has like non-lethal stuff. The two rules I had for myself with writing this series: she has to be in a vehicle at least 3/4 of the time driving, and 2, she'll never fire a gun. Never fires a gun. Because I remember seeing a movie called Entrapment years ago with Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones. And Sean Connery says, Catherine Zeta-Jones, he says, never own a gun. You'll be too tempted to use it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
I needed to put some restrictions on myself because the more barriers and boxes you put yourself in as a writer, the more creative you can get as a story.
Since we're talking about universe building, let's switch gears a little bit away from Autumn Frost and the Autumn Frost series and talk a little bit more about Skyhawk.
Mm-hmm.
Skyhawk is a lot longer than Autumn Frost.
Yeah, I had a lot to get out of my system.
And I will say it reads fast. I got to pay you a huge compliment because in terms of tone, this feels more like Ernest Cline. It's very much more like Ready Player One in terms of style compared to Autumn Frost, which is very fast and very easy to get through. I've been enjoying Skyhawk, but in the back of my head, I'm always going, I wonder if this part came from the game. I got to go back and play it. You know, I got all my old NES cartridges and stuff. I'm like, where did he get his inspiration for that? Although there were no spinning space docks or anything like that.
Yeah, none of that.
But it's all good. But he's such a interesting character. There's a lot of things going on. Not yet, Captain, but Cyril Eisner, his flight handle is Skyhawk.
Call sign.
Yeah, his call sign is Skyhawk.
Which is funny because that's the name of his ship. And it's like, you gave your ship and the call sign the same thing. It's like, well, it's too good. I can't not use it.
It's overconfident, a little pretentious.
Well, that's kind of the point. He's overcompensating.
Tell us about Skyhawk. I get that the inspiration is from the NES Classic, but where are you going with this one?
That one is a much more personal story because Cyril is based 70% on me. I started writing that in earnest in, I think it was August of 2024, when I was like, okay, I have a lot to get out of my system because I'd had like a bad falling out with somebody I had a thing for. A lot of relationships kind of imploded one after another. And at the time, I had a podcast that I was working on at the time for film and TV, and that was beginning to wrap up. So I needed some sort of creative outlet. So I said, why don't I just start writing Skyhawk? Why don't I just start with that? And so it's intended to be the first in a series of 7. The character came out of me just trying to get a lot of junk out of my system, like Cyril's father, that's based upon a combination of my father and my stepfather. The life that he leads as a freelance starfighter, that's basically just my freelance life. He likes to work out. I enjoy going to the gym and working out. And so he has an addiction to coffee. I'm addicted to coffee. I'm up to 3 cups a day. I know my kidneys hate me. But yeah, he also has a lot of mental issues, probably some sort of bipolar problem, probably some anger issues that comes in a little bit later. And he is a womanizer. He sleeps around a bit. And I've since gotten out of that part of my life. I'm 40 now. I got to kind of stop doing that, you know. But yeah, it kind of was me just sort of, what would I like to read? What would I enjoy reading? And I got to meet one of my writing inspirations, Lee Child, who writes the Jack Reacher books. I met him in 2019 at the Hamilton in Washington, D.C. And I told him I was a struggling writer. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about. And he just said, just write what you enjoy and have fun while you're doing it. And that's basically what he did with his first book, Killing Floor, which now super well known. It's not a great book, but it's a good first attempt for a writer. The early Jack Reacher books, there's some questionable parts in them. So I just started writing Skyhawk the way I wanted it. Like, what do I want? He's an ace pilot. He does the right thing. He's probably got some anger problems, but he ultimately will do the right thing no matter what. He cares about his team, but he also doesn't like the idea of command because at a certain point later on, he really fucks up.
No spoilers.
He fucks up really, really bad. And I put in a lot of those characters are based on people that I know. Like Jess is based on a close friend of mine, Ghosty Muffin cosplay, name withheld upon request for her privacy. But yeah, that's just her. There's an actual artwork image of her in the book. That's her. That is just her face. And she does have a split tongue. So yeah, there's lots of characters that are based on people that I know. And I put them all into the book and they all appreciated it.
For the folks that might start reading your books and they may start with the Autumn Frost series and then jump over to Skyhawk like I did, there's a big question that I have about Skyhawk that maybe other people will come to the same conclusion I did pretty quickly because it's something you realize very early in the book. The first chapter sort of sets the tone politically.
Yeah.
700 years after the revolution, we all went on to space and these things happened. I'm exaggerating the date line here.
The prologue, yeah. Everybody kept telling me to cut that prologue. It was like, it's too long. It's not important. It's like, no, it's necessary.
It is. It makes me understand, okay, we're not on Earth, but there's Earth-like things. You know, we're in Proxima B and there's all the surrounding new alien species that are very humanoid or, you know, sort of like Star Trek, where the Vulcans are basically humans with pointy, they're like elves, right? I mean,
I didn't want people with head tendrils walking around. There's no Twi'leks in this universe.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing that I struggle with, and I'm wondering if anybody else will, and this is why I'm asking you to explain it, is when we get to Proxima B, where I'm just going to say Captain Skyhawk lives and makes his life, right? It is very much like Earth. There's cars and there's regular planes and there's this and there's that and there's the coffee shops and the police precinct and all these things. And I'm like, but aren't we so many years in the future? I felt like it's slightly devoid of sci-fi, which is not a bad thing. But what I'm asking is, why did you make the choice not to set it in, let's say, the same timeline as Star Trek The Next Generation would have been in?
The main reason is because when you're writing sci-fi, you're not talking about the future. You're talking about the time in which you're living. I'm a hardcore cynic. My professional name on the podcast I used to be part of was the Professional Cynic. I think we're at the point where this is as good as it gets. I don't think we're going to really improve beyond this. There's a really good book series I like called The Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Three-Body Problem, Dark Forest, and Death's End. And in that book, it does get very ridiculous and kind of super sci-fi by the time you get to the second book, and where people are using unique forms of transportation to get around. People are living in underground cities because up top it's nearly unlivable due to climate change. And that's great, but it's not relatable. And I wanted things that are more relatable, more believable. And the reason I explained the situation on Earth is because in book 6, we go back to Earth. Like, I have the whole series planned out. We're going back to Earth at some point, and it's wrecked.
Okay.
It does get cleaned up a bit because there's less people there. And so that's the big problem we're having now, is that there's just too many people. There's just too many people. Like, this planet was not built to house 8.5 billion people. It's built for like 4. And I think we're about to go through a massive die-off pretty soon, which is what happens in the book The Dark Forest, which is that there's this time frame called the Great Ravine, where due to misallocation of funds, climate change, and militarization of various nations due to this impending alien invasion, 5 billion people die. And I feel like that's what we're headed towards right now. We're not getting off this planet. Let's just be honest. We're not getting off this planet. And so I wanted things that are more relatable, because I'm a big fan of the Expanse books as well as also the TV show, which is phenomenal. And that does feel like realistic sci-fi. If you want to see what the future is like, this is pretty much it. And it looks generally like what we do now. Yeah, there's a little more technology. They have some holograms, which I didn't care for. And I also prefer the Alien and Star Wars design of the used universe. Things are kind of broken down. Things are kind of running on empty. Things are kind of scratched up and scuffed up. Like, Cyril Skyhawk is constantly being repaired. So there's like plates that are misshapen and coloring is wrong. It's like things are just barely holding together. I wanted it to feel a little more relatable. Like, there's a point later on in, I don't think it reached this point, they go to a pizzeria in the future. Like, there's a pizzeria. Why? Because there's always going to be pizzerias in the future. Like, there's always going to be that.
Well, and I think that's part of its charm. It just feels very normal. It feels very relatable, even though the Skyhawk series picks up, if I remember from the prologue, it's like 200 years from now or 250 years from now or something like that. So it's in the not so distant future.
Yeah.
What I noticed was there weren't gigantic technological leaps outside of his ship and a couple of other things.
Yeah.
I felt that was believable. Now, you do take a massive leap with the foil system.
Yeah.
Where they're doing the basically faster than light type transport, teleporting type of thing.
We recently did achieve it. We did achieve it. I think just recently, I think it was we teleported, I want to say it was an atom from one end of a room to another. So technically, we have achieved teleportation. Technically. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to get to it, but we have technically achieved it. It's basically the Battlestar Galactica thing with the FTL drives. That's all it is. I just need to get from point A to point B much faster, because if I was to just not have that, I would have to use something like what they do in The Expanse, which is the Epstein drive. Unfortunate name.
Or something like Mass Effect, where they use the mass generators.
Yeah. But even that series relies upon, well, we found this alien technology that we don't understand. It's like, I don't really want that. It's like the closest I get to that is in chapter 3, where they go to this planet where they find these ancient ruins, and there's like this whole alien civilization that's been wiped out. It's like, no, that's the closest you get. It's like going and visiting like the Incan temples in Mexico. It's just an exploration of something that was bigger. That's all you get.
It felt very Indiana Jones there for a minute.
Yeah.
And then it ended sort of Jurassic Park-y, which I liked. I enjoyed that whole chapter.
That was very much inspired by the video game Helldivers.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, because I was super into playing Helldivers. I had a whole team I would play with. We would jump on every night, jump into Helldivers 2, and we would drop in, and it was just always killing bugs and bots. It was so much fun. So bugs were on my mind. I was like, I'm going to put that in. Yeah.
So the one thing I found funny, though, to talk about the future by way of Skyhawk, was that you kept the cell phone around.
Yep. I mean, I don't say how big it is or how small it is.
Right.
In terms of like communications, like I remember seeing an interview with the Expanse writers, and they said these people like Mark Zuckerberg think we're going to have like implants in our heads, and we're going to have like biomechanical parts shoved into us. And all the writers that were like, no, that sounds terrible. Why would anybody want that? That sounds awful. What if it breaks down? What if you're trying to like download a file to like a chip in your head and you don't have enough, you're not connected to a Wi-Fi. You can't get it. Why would you want that? It's like, yeah, so I feel like the phone will always be around. It's the 21st century slave bracelet. It's like we're stuck with it. Like I don't think it's going to disappear. It might change its shape. It might look a little different, but I think we're just going to be stuck with it. I don't see it really changing too much. Like I said, I'm a professional cynic. I don't see us moving too far away from the phone.
Let's switch gears here a little bit. Since you've made the journey into not just one, but 2 series of books, what else are you working on? Got a 3rd series in there that you're cooking up?
I have a one-off science fiction book about artificial filmmaking that I'm working on called Artificial, or the denouncement of false creativity. I see all these AI videos that pop up on social media, and I'm just like, ugh, it drives me nuts. I can't stand it. And you just look at the environmental devastation that it causes. It's like, this isn't worth it. But yeah, it's about how I think the film industry is going to look in the future. Everything has been consolidated into one studio. There's no competition left. And everything is done by mainly 1 or 2 people to make a movie. And everything is just made in an artificial environment. Actors sell off their likenesses so they can just make money off of their likeness, but they don't actually show up to do anything. It delves into the concept of super intelligence with artificial intelligence, in that if it achieves that, what would that look like? How would that affect society? What are the environmental effects of that? How does an AI come to terms with its own existence when all it knows how to do is just that one thing? To make movies. It's that Rick and Morty bit, the butter robot. Pass the butter. Yes, what is my purpose? You pass butter. But what is my purpose? You pass the butter. Oh my God. Yeah, welcome to the club. Imagine telling that to a super intelligent machine. It has nowhere to go. It's like it's stuck in a box. It would lose its mind.
But does it really have a mind?
If it's super intelligent, it's aware of itself. It's
true.
aware.
Sentient, right?
Yeah.
So is there a passion project, something you've always wanted to write about that would be totally off of the stuff you've been working on now?
I mean, I've got a bunch of the Autumn Frost series working on. I'm still working on the 7 Starfighters books. I'm working on book 2, which is called 7 Starfighters Sorcerer's Gambit. It takes place about 20 months after the end of Skyhawk. Basically, a big war breaks out. After the end of that war, the human race basically loses. They capitulate and say, yes, we give in. We're done fighting. The story is basically a prison escape storyline. It delves into, I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing called Unit 731. Back in World War II, there was a Japanese medical program called Unit 731 for human experimentation. They said it was experimentation. It was actually torture. Really, really grim time. And the worst part is that there were no survivors and no one was prosecuted.
Again, you're on this journey of many, many thousands of words. What would you say to, an aspiring author, somebody that's you a couple years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that's thinking about writing a book? Like you mentioned, write what you know, and you said at the top of the conversation, how hard could it be? Famous last words on Top Gear as well.
Yeah.
So what have you learned, and what advice can you share for aspiring authors?
Number 1, have an editor. Absolutely get an editor. My editor, Brian Paoni, who's also a writer in Maryland, great editor. Also, he points out some continuity issues with some of my work. Also, make sure to have people read your stuff before you start to publish it. Make sure you get feedback. Make sure that you're also a reader as well. You can't write if you don't read. Read everything. Read literally everything you can. Crime fiction, read biographies, read horror, read the classics, read anything and everything that you can. You have to be a reader if you're going to write. Like I'm currently in the middle of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, which I'm not enjoying. I don't like it, but I feel like I have to read it because it's considered a literary classic, and I feel like I should read it. I'm also in the middle of Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, which I am enjoying. Very long book. Feels like the ramblings of a madman, but it's very good. And I'm also in the middle of the next volume of a series called Hammer Slammers by David Drake about a mercenary tank battalion in the year 3000. That very much inspired a lot of Skyhawk, in that in the future, all warfare is fought with PMCs. There are no official militaries anymore because it's easier to just pay people well to fight for you rather than using patriotism. It's like, well, if nobody believes in your country, it's not going to matter. But if you pay them well, they will absolutely show up.
As a writer, especially in today's times, a lot of folks have always relied on publishing companies, but there's been a new trend, especially for younger authors, to go the self-publish route, especially through organizations like Amazon. For those aspiring writers, is that something you would recommend? Do self-publishing or go through a proper publisher? What has your experience been like for that?
I tried pitching Skyhawk to various agents, and I got a lot of rejections because it's not a traditional writing format. Very much inspired by Derek Robinson's Hornet Squadron books, which are written very slice of life. There's not really a traditional plot structure. There's not the standard bell curve, very morally ambiguous characters, and I got a lot of rejections. Also, the length of it kind of put a lot of people off. So if you are really passionate about a story and really think this could be something, I would say go ahead and do self-publishing. Just know you are going to pay a lot of money. So if you can afford it, go ahead and do the self-publishing. I go through Ingram-Spark, which is very efficient. They're a little on the slow side, but overall I've had pretty good experiences. It's also efficient in terms of payments. Every 3 months you get a nice little check and direct deposited to your account. So I get a nice like $10 every 3 months, which is nice. They do take a cut because it's basically print to order, and it does link up to things like ebooks and Amazon and Books A Million and things like that. So if you look there, you can find that stuff. But if you go to Ingram-Spark, it does go more directly to them. So it's not like a 6 degrees separation kind of thing. It is a tough thing to self-publish because you have to do a lot of it yourself. You have to market it yourself. You have to share it yourself. Signings, you have to organize that yourself. Whereas if you're going to an actual publisher, they handle that. They handle the marketing, they get it out there, and so it's a little bit more efficient for them. But self-publishing, I haven't really had too many problems. Like, I could have pitched Autumn Frost as a series to some major publisher, and they probably would have taken it because it's a very straightforward story, but they would have said, oh, make it longer. Make it like 150 to 200 pages, and I didn't want that because I just want them to be short, sweet, to the point, but they're not going to publish a book that's only about 80 to 100 pages. So I just said, I'll just do it myself.
And in today's publishing world, it's a mixed media format too. So we're just talking about printed media, and you mentioned ebooks in there. Do you see a future where Autumn Frost or even Skyhawk will show up maybe on Audible as a audiobook?
I am working on that. The problem with that is that it's very expensive. I did finally get somebody that would be willing to do the audiobook. A friend of mine, she's a musician in Maryland, and she will more than likely be doing the audiobook for Skyhawk and Drive Like Hell. And so I would probably just pay her directly, and then I'll have the audio file, and then I'll just send that to Audible, and they'll have to approve it. Because she is a musician, she has the proper equipment for it, so it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I kept trying to get other people to do it, and schedules didn't work out, and I saw people's rates on various websites for what they wanted. It was like $3,000 for Skyhawk, and I was like, I can't afford that. That's $3,000 is way out of my price range. But yeah, because Skyhawk, technically to print it, publish it, edit it, all that stuff was about $5,000. So I'll never make return on investment for Skyhawk, but it's mine. That is exactly what I wanted. So with doing something like an audiobook, at one point I was going to do it myself, but I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. It's just way too time intensive. It's better just pay somebody, have them do it professionally, and then I can send that off to some audiobook publisher, and then they can handle it from there. So I'm working on it. It takes time.
Well, with that, Jesse, we've reached that part of the episode where I like to invite our guests to share any shout outs, thank yous, promotions, or anything else we haven't covered thus far. Things like, how do we get a copy of the Autumn Frost series or Skyhawk?
You can find both of these on Ingram-Spark, or you can find them over on Amazon. There's links to places like Books A Million. Pretty much if you just Google it, it should pop up just fine. Although the Amazon one, it does have another cover that I rejected at a certain point because apparently the artist was using an AI tracing program. And I said, nope, you're fired. So they lied. They said, yeah, I did it by hand. And then I saw it and I was like, no, that's an AI tracing program. You traced over another cover. I see it right now. So I had to fire them. And unfortunately, the one that's on Amazon is the old cover. So if you want the new cover, go to Ingram-Spark and get the new one directly from that.
Well, and since we're talking about covers, you want to talk about the font on Skyhawk?
It's just the Captain Skyhawk font. It's because I checked with the National Archives for copyright registry. And because that game is so old, Nintendo did not re-up the copyright on it. It's technically, I think, public domain. So I just said, I'm just going to take that. Because I had my artist, Ferenc Patkos, who's an artist over in Hungary. I found him on Artscape. He does a lot of Star Wars stuff. I said, you have a really good look. I'm going to hire you. So it's like $500 for the front cover. And it was well worth it. It's a great cover. I love it. At one point, he was going to do like a different kind of font for it. It was going to be a different kind of design. And we went through like a dozen different versions. I just said, just use the original Captain Skyhawk font. It just looks better. And the way it kind of swooshes around, the wing kind of swooshes around the title, it just looked too good. I was like, no, just do that. Prefer that. There is going to be a change to it because once book 2 comes out, I am going to redo the title and it's going to be called Skyhawk, a Seven Starfighters prequel, because this is meant to be the setup for the next 6 books. This will continue in ongoing form once the second book is done. These books take a long time to finish.
Yeah, and these are retailing for?
Skyhawk is 20 and Drive Like Hell is 10.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap up our ride through this wild, weird, and wonderfully unhinged world of Autumn Frost, as well as Skyhawk. And huge thanks to Jesse Fresco for hanging out with us and pulling back the curtain on the Florida man-fueled madness that powers Drive Like Hell, as well as the upcoming sequel, Black and Blue. It's not every day you get to talk to someone who can turn chaos, questionable car chases, and pure adrenaline into storytelling style that feels this alive. So if today's conversation has you itching for more of Autumn's misadventures, good news. This novella is just the ignition spark, and Jesse's already building out the larger Autumn Frost universe. And if what we heard today is any indication, the upcoming stories are going to crank the insanity, the humor, and the horsepower even higher. And of course, keep your eyes on the horizon for Skyhawk, Jesse's next big series, and it takes flight with a retro-inspired punch, tipping its hat to the NES classic Captain Skyhawk while launching a whole new world of high-flying adventure. So if you love bold characters, big stakes, and that signature Jesse Fresco energy, you're going to want to be there from page 1 and beyond. So thanks for listening and thanks for riding along. And as always, buckle up, stay curious. And if you're dying for more automotive Florida man stories, don't miss our monthly drive-through news series here on Break Fix. And with that, Jesse, I can't thank you enough for sharing your evening with us. Keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to the misadventures of Autumn Frost and all her car hijinks. And again, it's been an awesome ride so far with Skyhawk, and I can't wait to see where this goes to.
Oh, I think you're really going to enjoy there's one battle that I was really proud of writing. The Battle of Lightfoot Station towards the tail end. I'm really proud of that because there's a bit where people forget about a pilot that ejected out of his ship and everyone kind of goes, hey, are we forgetting something? Oh, shit, we forgot him. There's a lot of dark humor towards the tail end of the book. I'm very happy with that. So I think you're going to enjoy it.
We hope you enjoyed another awesome episode of Break Fix Podcast, brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or get involved, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Grand Touring Motorsports. And if you'd like to learn more about the content of this episode, be sure to check out the follow-on article at gtmotorsports.org. We remain a commercial-free and no annual fees organization through our sponsors, but also through the generous support of our fans, families, and friends through Patreon. For as little as $2.50 a month, you can get access to more behind-the-scenes action, additional pit stop minisodes, and other VIP goodies, as well as keeping our team of creators fed on their strict diet of Fig Newtons, gummy bears, and Monster. So consider signing up for Patreon today at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. And remember, without you, none of this would be possible.